just a short word before I begin. I certainly recognize, I'm sure all of us recognize, that a sure sign of God's love and grace in our lives is that we get to live in this community of Dunedin. Amen to that, I'm sure. And our city is always working with us and for us, so I'm actually pleased to be able to say that I just have gotten word that Peace Vigil that we do have planned has been confirmed for Monday evening. I'll need to firm up the exact time later on this afternoon, but do plan on that Peace Vigil in response to our national events of the past few days. Again, Henry Park, Monday evening here in downtown Dunedin. I hope that you will join us in that. The scriptures make clear the opposite of fear is not bravery. The opposite of fear is love. For perfect love, 1 John says, perfect love casts out all fear. Well, we're going to turn this morning to Mark's Gospel. We've been following along with Jesus and his disciples along the way over the past few chapters. And so we find them again in Mark's Gospel, the 10th chapter. And we're going to read the tail end of that chapter, starting in verse 46. Let's listen again for the word of the Lord. Now they, that is Jesus and his disciples, came to Jericho. As he and his disciples and a large crowd were leaving Jericho, Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, a blind beggar, was sitting by the roadside. When he had heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout out and say, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." Many sternly ordered him to be quiet, but he cried out even more loudly, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stood still and said, "Call him here." And they called the blind man, saying to him, "Take heart, get up, he's calling you." So throwing off his cloak, he sprang up and came to Jesus. Then Jesus said to him, "What do you want me to do for you?" The blind man said to him, "My teacher, let me see again." Jesus said to him, "Well, go. Your faith has made you well." And immediately he regained his sight and followed Jesus on the way. This is the gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Please pray. Almighty God, again and again, we lift up the prayer of the psalmist to you, that the words of my mouth, the meditations of all of our hearts will be pleasing and acceptable to you. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. I know you have heard me say it undoubtedly before, because I say it to myself practically every time I hear one of these miracle stories in the gospel or see a miracle played out before me. And that is, it is hard to hear of or see a miracle happen and not want your own. To not want a miracle for yourself. Because as deserving as someone else might be of their miracle, well, I think just about all of us are deserving and needful of our own. Broken lives, broken relationship. God knows a broken world. Broken hearts, broken minds. They all cry out for healing and wholeness. And the healing and wholeness that we know only Jesus can bring. I heard recently the story that Methodist pastor James Howell tells of a Sunday in his church when a church member, a man who was blind, was the selected liturgist, worship leader for the day. And he had to read the gospel reading for that day. And so the man who's blind took his part of his Braille Bible. There's no Braille books at all. You know how big they are, how voluminous they are. A Bible would fill up a whole bookshelf. But the man selected his portion of the text and brought it with him on a Sunday morning and stood there before the congregation, opening it to the assigned place, where in his Braille Bible he read the 9th chapter of John's Gospel. A miracle story there of Jesus being confronted by a man who is blind. The man asks for healing, And Jesus, well, does something a little odd. He spits on the ground, makes a little mud, puts it on the man's eyes, and tells him to wash in the pool of Siloam there in Jerusalem. And the man receives his sight again. Reverend Howell tells about how he, after worship, thanked the man for his wonderful worship leadership and reading the text. And the man said, "Thank you, he appreciated it." And then he paused and said, "But you know, I wonder why it is that God won't give me my sight. It's hard to hear about a miracle and not want one for yourself." I think there's a corollary to this. And the corollary, I believe, goes, not only is it difficult to hear of a miracle and not want one yourself, but the miracles that you and I ask for, that we go to Jesus pleading for, the valid, wonderful, right, and just miracles that we long for in our lives, well, we want them now. We want them to be immediate. It always occurs to me, for instance, when we have people come by the church office, they've hit a hard spot in their life. They're falling behind on their rent. They can't pay the electricity bill or the water or gas bill, or they're worried about having their car repossessed or the insurance running out. When people come by and ask for that kind of assistance, I have never had anybody say, "Preacher, my power's going to get cut off in about 2 months. Could you help me out?" No. They need that miracle right then. Right now, they're within minutes, if not hours, from having their electricity cut, from not being able to pay the rent when it's due, having their car repossessed. They want relief and they want it immediate. But just this morning, I got the news from my sister in North Carolina that some long-term family friends back in western North Carolina, their adult daughter died of a drug overdose yesterday. Tragic, certainly heartbreaking for that family. My prayers are with them, but certainly they are not unique. What I do know, of course, is that her mom and dad prayed for their daughter. Have prayed for their daughter and the disease of drug addiction that she dealt with for years, every day. But they did not pray that God would heal their daughter of her drug addiction some future time or over the years or over the months. No, they prayed for relief. They prayed for that miracle right then and right there, right now. We want our miracles and we want them immediately. Because, like the man in this story, we are desperate. We cry out to Jesus. It is interesting to me then, though, to read in the Scriptures that as wonderful as these miracles can be often, surprisingly, even in Scripture, we think that Jesus can just wave his wand and miracles happen, but a little bit closer to reading of the text, we realize that some miracles, well, they take time. Like, think of just a few chapters earlier. Now, we've been following along in a long section in Mark's Gospel where Jesus is walking with his disciples, and he's teaching them, he's telling them about the fact that he's the Messiah. What does that actually mean? He's going to Jerusalem. He's going to be killed, crucified, rise again on the third day. And if they're to follow him, then that means certain things about certain sorts of people that they will be, the lives that they will lead, and the way that they will lead others. But before this long section that we've been following on teaching happens, there's another miracle story. In fact, it turns out it's another man who was blind. Sort of bookends. 2 blind men healed on either side of this long teaching story in Mark's Gospel. We didn't talk about that other healing of a blind man, but it's interesting when you look at it. Friends of this man bring him to Jesus. They've heard that he's some sort of miracle worker, that maybe he can do something for their friend, return his sight to him. And I don't know, maybe it's the same story that John tells, and Mark just remembers it differently. Maybe it's a different story, but Jesus has the same sort of method. Because again, he spits on the ground, makes some mud, puts it in the man's eyes, and he asks the man, "So tell me what you see." And the man says, "You know, I see people like trees walking. Well, isn't that kind of weird, don't you think? I mean, here he is, Jesus, the Messiah, the Son of God, the great miracle worker, and it turns out that he has to do a follow-up treatment. He doesn't get it right completely the first time. The miracle doesn't happen in a flash. In fact, instead, Jesus has to give the man a second treatment, a second try, until the man's vision is restored to him completely. We may want our miracles, we may want them now, but even for Jesus, sometimes they can take a while. Well, like I said, we have bookends of miracle stories here. Bookends of blind men receiving their sight. And this time, the man's name is Bartimaeus, literally son of Timaeus. That's what bar means. Bar mitzvah is son of the covenant. So this son of Timaeus comes to Jesus, shrieking, pleading with him. That's another thing I know about people in need. They're not quiet. They make themselves known. They will not ask for help or for a miracle on our terms. They will not sit there politely until we get around to them. In fact, I remember well the words that Martin Luther King wrote in a letter from the Birmingham jail. You may have read it as well. Many of the religious leaders of the time in the Civil Rights Movement, including good Presbyterians, the letter from the Birmingham jail was included in the To address, was the moderator of the Presbytery of Birmingham at the time. And many of those church leaders had said, you know, King, Dr. King, we know you're right, we know that civil rights is right, but take your time, just relax a little bit, don't be so pushy. And King said, no, I will not be silent. Justice delayed is justice denied, he wrote. People in need will not be patient and wait on the sidelines until we get around to it. They demand of Jesus some healing, some relief. And this man is no exception. I mean, granted, the disciples, others around him, told him to shush, be quiet, don't bother us, but he would not relent until Jesus heard him, until Jesus healed him. And with just a word, Jesus said, as he often said when doing his miracles, go, your faith has made you well. You would think that was the end of the story. That's the way that many of the miracle stories in the Gospels end. Jesus provides the healing, he often says, your faith has made you well, and then they trot off and do their own thing. Except Bartimaeus. Did you notice that Bartimaeus actually disobeys Jesus? He disobeys him. Jesus tells Bartimaeus, look, you're healed. We know you just get on with your life. Go live a happy life. You've suffered enough. You've been a homeless beggar on the side of the road long enough. It's time for you to be a part of the community and just go and live your life and do what you should do. And Bartimaeus disobeys him because Mark tells us he followed Jesus along the way. He didn't just go live his life. He became a follower of Jesus. And he would follow him to Jerusalem. He'd follow him to the cross. And he would follow him to the empty tomb there on Easter morning. We have certainty that this is true because his name is written here in Mark's Gospel. That's always a little clue you see in the Gospels. When we're told the names of people, then we can rest assured that we were told those names because the early Christian community knew them. Oh yeah, Bartimaeus, I know him. He's an elder at First Church Galilee. I know Bartimaeus. Oh, is that the story, how he became a follower of Jesus? I had no idea he used to be blind. They knew Bartimaeus. That's why his name is written here. He followed and kept following Jesus. Now, scholars will look at this story and they will see in it sort of a combo. They'll see on the one side a healing story about a man who was blind who receives his sight again. And they will hear on the other side a call story. Much like Jesus calling James and Peter and Andrew and John to leave their fishing nets and a family fishing business out on the lake and to come and to follow him.
then there's the first part. Bartimaeus is healed of his vision. He restores his sight. But I wonder if that healing doesn't just take a little bit longer, need another step, need quite a few more steps along the way. I wonder if the second part of Bartimaeus following Jesus, if that isn't the beginning of the rest of the miracle, the beginning of the rest of the healing. See, Bartimaeus was healed physically, but he needed more healing than that. We need more healing than that. We need healing of life, of meaning, of purpose, of the joy and the depth that comes from being a follower of Jesus, from going in his way. Yes, receiving your sight again, that's a wonderful, good miracle that takes place, but there is a deeper miracle that's made real in Bartimaeus' life. And it isn't even complete that day. It's not like he's become a disciple of Jesus and that's all fine and good, and case closed, done and dusted. No, it keeps going step by step, day by day, moment by moment. If you need any proof of that, think about the scripture that we read a couple of weeks ago. A couple of other sons, a couple of Zechariah, I think, James and John, Bar Zebedee. James and John coming to Jesus, asking Jesus the same question. Will you do something for me? And Jesus asking them, what is it that you want me to do for you? They, of course, want power and prestige to be vice messiah, so they've still got a lot to learn. They've got some more healing to be done. They need more time with Jesus for that miracle of transformation in their lives to be made whole and complete. Sometimes the miracles in our lives take time. And sometimes they go much deeper, far deeper, become more whole and complete than anything we would have expected. We just want to have our sight restored. We just want that stiff knee to go away. We just want that broken relationship to be restored. But Jesus is about something deeper. About the miracle, the healing that comes from following him and following in his way. There is in that, then, I think, also a caution for us. A caution for when we think our healing is already complete. When we've gone to Jesus and Jesus has said, go, your faith has made you well, and we think we're done and dusted. We think things are good, and we've got it all worked out and worked up, and things are complete for us. We don't need any more help, Jesus. Thank you very much. We will just go on our way now. But it turns out there's still more work to be done. There's still more healing that needs to happen in our lives. There's still more that we need to learn and to be shaped by and to grow into the fullness of what it means to be God's own. Many of you all were around last week in between services when we did that exchange forum. We were talking about some of the building projects that we have planned and some of the financial ins and outs of all that and sort of what's ahead of us. And I will say, it struck me with just a little bit of humor to me that as I listened to the conversation that was going on, it actually reminded me sometimes a little bit. Do you ever watch the British House of Parliament on television? Yeah, you do that? So one party stands up and that party member of Parliament speaks and the members of his or her party are back there going, a little pounding on the bench in front of them. And then the member of another party speaks, and then they start rumbling to their neighbors. Remind me of that a little bit. And I say that, one, as a bit of humor, but also as a bit of caution. Because if we are here only to say what it is that we know, what we believe, if we think that God has already done our miracle for us, and our minds are made up, and we're done and dusted, then perhaps we're not done yet. Perhaps the miracle that God longs to work in us is still to be accomplished and completed. Maybe there are other voices we need to listen to, other perspectives we need to hear, that we're still being shaped and molded and formed into the likeness of Christ. That's why, of course, you're suffering from in our culture today. It is a whole culture, a whole society who think they are done. Their minds are made up. They are perfect, and there's no reason to listen anymore. In fact, if anything, the tragic events of the past week have reminded us the horrors that can happen when people are so convicted and convinced, even to the point of taking somebody else's life. There's more miracle to be done. There's more healing to be had. And it's a miracle, actually, that you're here seeking that still. To listen to the words of Scripture, to hear the story of the gospel, to listen to one another in community, to pray together, to study together, to serve the world together, knowing that the miracle of God in your life is not yet finished. There is more to be done, more healing to be had, and oh, what a grand and glorious gift, miracle that is to be on that journey, to take those steps, to know that the day will come. As the epistle says, the good work that God has already begun in you, God will see it to completion on that day to come. God's kingdom will come, God's will is done in our lives, in our world. May it be so for you and for me. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the